Good afternoon. It is Sunday, June 22nd, 2025. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. I have a lot of stories to share with you today. We're going to start with the President's speech from last night.
Time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's number one state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate.
Okay. There is so much propaganda here. One needs to understand that this idea of Iran being the top state sponsor of terrorism is false. It is a lie. And him saying, Iran has been killing our people and blowing off their arms and legs. Where did he get that from? What evidence does he have on that? That hasn't even happened. And then he says it was by General Soleimani. Again, false. General Soleimani was fighting the terrorists in Iraq and Middle East, in that area. I know Iraq, but I'm not sure if Syria, but they were working with the Iraqis to try to douse and tamp out these terrorists, ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Now, who sponsors ISIS and Al-Qaeda? Israel, U.S., and Saudi Arabia. Who are the top state sponsors of terrorists in the Middle East? Israel and Saudi Arabia. And then us, of course, we're number 3. But we're the top 3. We're in the top 3. Whatever order you want to put that. We created Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all that. And so did Israel. Saudis, Al-Qaeda came from a lot of those Al-Qaeda terrorists came from Saudi Arabia. And of course, we're buddies with them, even though they are the ones that have been the most violent. I know they're trying to change, supposedly now, but that's not the history. He is speaking totally off on the history here, not even close to being right. Now, of course, our government has been propagandizing and brainwashing the masses, me and all my fellow Americans, to get us all to hate Iran. And then he says, everybody has heard of these names of these energy programs, these nuclear energy programs of Iran's for years. Well, I never have. I really hadn't paid attention. And wasn't really discussed much, at least that I didn't hear it. Maybe you all did. In any case, that's what he wanted to put out, what he put out last night. Let me go on to this Truth Social post. Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Big, all caps, which in text language means shouting, ridiculous, constant threatening of, as I said, a nation that's not the top sponsor of terrorism, no matter how many times they want to say this over and over again. Now, having said all that, let's go to the satellite's images show damage from U.S. strikes on Iran's Fordo nuclear site. So, this is the satellite image. Obviously on the left was before the bombings, and on the right is after the bombings. There's only one problem. U.S. bunker buster bombs failed to destroy Iran's Fordo nuclear facility. So, U.S. strikes on Iran's Fordo nuclear facility severely damaged but did not destroy the underground complex, a senior American official told the New York Times on Sunday. The official, speaking anonymously, we can see why, acknowledged that stealth bomber attacks using bunker buster bombs failed to eliminate the heavily fortified facility despite causing significant damage. So, yes, they deployed all these, and here Trump is saying it's very successful. So was this just a PR stunt, see, we did it, now let's just go back to something else. Maybe Trump figures that'll be the end, or he thinks, although he's still, the problem is he's still threatening, but some people are saying, well, maybe he figures I'll just do that and then we'll be done. We won't have to worry about this anymore, but his continued threats aren't really helping. So that's from a U.S. official, okay? A U.S. official is saying that. And let's see. Where am I? That's not the one I was looking for. Let's see. Let me go back here. Okay. Let's see what the IAEA says. It says entrances to tunnels at Iran's Esfahan site hit by U.S. strike. So the entrances to tunnels at Iran's nuclear complex, that particular one, were hit in the U.S. military strikes overnight. We have established that entrances to underground tunnels at the site were impacted. Now, interesting to notice that officials said before Israel attacked Iran's nuclear facilities on June 13th that much of Iran's most highly enriched uranium was stored underground in Esfahan. Yes, however, let's see if I can find the other thing. Khamenei advisor says Iran's enriched uranium remained despite U.S. attacks. So, what we understand is that they actually moved these things, and that's already been said. So, advisor to Iran's supreme leader said the country still had its stockpile of enriched uranium despite attacks by the U.S. on key nuclear sites. I believe they had said in my the video before, I had played by a military commander, official, an Iranian army, said they'd already moved this before these attacks. So it was basically a failed bombing mission that cost millions and millions of dollars. Let's see here. I'm going to go to so Scott Ritter kind of confirms that as well.
GPU-57, is that one of these 32,000-pound monsters? Correct. They're the massive ordnance penetrator weapon that only the B-2 can carry, and it's upon the shoulders of this weapon that the United States has based its hopes of interdicting Iran's nuclear program. But Natanz had been struck at least twice and probably 3 times by the Israelis prior to this attack. And whatever was in Natanz 3 times by the Israelis prior to this attack. And whatever was in Natanz, that, centrifuges, etc., of value had long since been evacuated. People should understand that Natanz is the principal home of centrifuge cascades of the oldest type, the IR-1 centrifuge, which is a very inefficient centrifuge that Iran had long since replaced with these more modern centrifuges that are in Fordo. So to strike Natanz doesn't put back the Iranian program at all, and anything of value in that program had been evacuated. So we put a...
Okay, so he's talking about the evacuation of that. So anyway, there's several reports on this, and I'm going to go to... Russia says U.S. has opened a Pandora's box. Russia's ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, has told the Security Council that the U.S. has yet again demonstrated its complete contempt for the position of the international community by its attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities. It's prepared not only to turn a blind eye to the killings of tens of thousands of Palestinian women, children, and old persons, but also to gamble with the safety and well-being of humanity as a whole. He said through its actions in Iran, the U.S. has opened a Pandora's box in which no one knows what new catastrophe and suffering it will bring. Indeed. But, we always shoot first, ask questions later. That's always been the mantra or the modus operandi of America. Now, what I'm going to do is go to... Where was it? All right. Iran's parliament approves closure of Hormuz Strait after U.S. strikes on nuclear site. Well, pretty big deal. The Iranian parliament has approved a measure to close the Strait of Hormuz to naval traffic following U.S. strikes on 3 nuclear facilities. The parliament has reached the conclusion that the Strait of Hormuz should be closed. Major General Esmail Kosari said, a member of the Parliament's National Security Commission. Strait of Hormuz is considered the world's most important gateway for oil transport. The final decision in this regard lies with the Supreme National Security Council. The Supreme National Security Council serves as Iran's highest security authority. Well, we'll see what happens with that, but I said this might happen, and there's a real issue with that because of obvious things. It's going to upset China, since, as we said in another video, that China gets most of its oil from Iran. Anyway, I've had some computer problems here, and I've had to try to get everything together here in pieces, and hopefully it's not too abrupt and crazy in this video. I've got to make some space on my computer. In any case, there's lots going on. We don't know what Iran's response is going to be at this time. It's they said I read something earlier that they said that they have to respond to the U.S.'s aggression. They have to respond back. We don't know what that is. I do think they were centering more on Israel, but we'll see what happens. Everything has been happening very quickly and been a nightmare, so I will be back later. Thanks so much. Follow my channel on Rumble. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you would. Please like my videos if you like them. Share them if you like it. Like them, share my channel, get the word out. Thanks so much for your support. Until next time.